All right. Welcome, everybody. My name is... Me?
Yes.
My name is Josh Langsam.
Ladies and gentlemen. We got him here.
Thank you, Chester. And Cab Calloway's grandson, the state director. We're here to talk about Cab's participation and innovation and influence within the dance space. And everybody up here has their own unique relationship to Cab. They've all met him, they've worked with him, there's history there, and there's very knowledgeable background stories that we're interested to talk about today, and just to humanize Cab, the personality versus the persona. Cab as a public figure was often an amalgam of People magazine clips of what they wanted him to be as a celebrity, but he was a person underneath that, and my grandfather. So it would be exciting to tell you some stories about who he was to me, and I'd love to hear some stories about who he was to you all. And so I'll let Chester, Sugar, and Barbara introduce themselves, and I'm excited to talk to them. Thank you guys for coming out.
Chester Whitmore, I'm an ETC, etc., right? No, choreographer, historian, filmmaker, and part of the furniture, right? To be here to talk about today.
He's a musical genius.
Yay!
New York, and like you said, we're here to tell you about Camp Calloway this afternoon. Okay? My name is Barbara Billups. I was born in Georgia, and I lived a lot of my life in New York. Now I'm not as old as they are. Only a little bit I can tell you concerning Camp Calloway, and that's been, I worked with him 3 times.
Wow. Well, there's some exciting stories, I'm sure, because Chester's worked worked with my Aunt Chris. You've worked with so many people around Cab, and Sugar worked with Cab, with Al Minns as her dance partner, and I would love to hear that story. And there's just so many connection points to Cab, and dance is a really exciting one for us to understand more about. He was a very active and energetic band leader on the stage, and that was rare for that time because you would be a musician, you'd play your instrument, and you would conduct your band. But Cab had a different scheme on the stage. He would conduct his band with the baton. He would conduct his band with his hair. He would conduct his band with his hips. He would conduct his band with his footwork. You know, anything to connect the audience to his performance. He was the mediator, and he wanted to be in. So there's so many ways to talk about Cab as a dancer, as a performer, but I just want to open up the floor and just say, what was your first impression of Cab, and how did you come to know him? Any of you?
When I first met him, we was doing a show together, and I had just came off the floor with my dancing partner. And he looked at me and said, "You look big. You the one on that thing that we got there." He said, "I know who you are." I didn't know who he was, but he did know who I was. And he was the most nicest person you ever want to meet. He really was. And he cared more for you at times than I think you probably care for yourself. But no matter how high he was, he was always down to your level. He wasn't like a lot of entertainers that you all know that is up there and don't even want to speak to you when you see you walk in the room. And I know quite a bit of you know that, or some of y'all probably do the same thing. So to talk about him, no matter where he saw you, and he remember you, even if you tell him, you don't remember me, he'll say, oh yeah, I remember you. You may not, but you never know it. That's the way he was. He was the kind of person who was, no matter who you were, you was okay with him. No matter how high he was, he would come down to your level. And he did that many times when we worked together. No matter where I was, or my dancing partner was, or whatever it was, he would let you know that he knew you. Even if you didn't know your name, look at your face, you would never know it, because he would act like he'd been knowing you for years. That's the kind of person he was.
First met Cab back in 1982, I think it was. I had a gentleman call me one day, and his name was Larry Schultz, and he says, I'm a producer with NBC, and I like to be your manager. So I said, at the time, I hadn't danced in like 5 years, and I said, manager for what? He said, are you still Sullivan at Wonder House Small Ball 1955? I said, yes. He says, well, I'd like to be your manager. I said, oh, okay. He says, and I said, I don't have a partner at the moment. He said, I have a partner for you. And I said, oh, really? So he said, do you know Al Mills? I said, yes, I'll be his partner. Because I knew who Al Mills was. An opportunity to dance with him? Oh, definitely. I said, he was one of the originators of the Lindy Hop, you know? So he became my manager. And so one day he called and said, would you like to, I know you don't like auditioning, but I would like for you and Al to audition for a gentleman that needs a dance act. I says, okay. He says, told me where for us to come, what time to be there and everything. So we went down to the studio. I think it was Sandra Cameron's studio. That's where Larry worked from his wife's studio. And we met Calloway. I saw him, I knew him, because I've seen him on films, you know. Saw him in Stormy Weather and a few other musicals, because I love going to movies and watch musicals. So he said, I'd like a dance act to go with me on tour for 3 weeks. And we said, that'll be fine, you know. We said, well, first he wanted us to audition, so we did, just Al and I. So he said, now I need you to get another couple. So we said, okay. So he was satisfied with what he saw, and he told us where to be and when to be there, and that was the beginning of my association with Cab.
Cab Calloway. My first time seeing Cab Calloway, I saw him, but not physically. I saw him on television as an animated figure. It was an old movie, and a lot of you probably know. It was Betty Boop.
Yeah.
It was Betty Boop.
Betty Boop, yeah.
And she would have these made by Fletcher Brothers and the production. And they were like Walt Disney itself. They did things more in the city, like, and Disney did the Letty you know, their characters and Fletcher's characters with all the jazz, that type of thing. Betty Boop was him. She wrote that there was an episode, it was called The Old Man in the Mountain. And she would go to the mountain, this old man come out, And he started going, and I said, whoa, what is this cat? And he started, oh God, he started doing moonwalking and cycling and doing all this stuff. It was it. And he was, he was jamming, yeah. And she said, what you gonna do? He said, I'm gonna do the best I can. And he was doing his thing. Not to know that the voice was Camp Jitterbug. I said, man, who's doing this? So later on, I'm going on trying to figure out who's this guy singing these songs from here, some records. When I was doing my research, when I was dancing, I learned that this guy, Calloway, was in the movie Stormy Weather. And he was in there. And then I saw him live. And man, that was it. That blew my mind. When you see him live, he was electrifying. The presence, the musicality, what he did with the band, would knock your socks off. This cat came out and he had the struggle, he had the walk, And I'm like, who's that? That's Cat Jitterbug. That's the voice of Betty Boop. Yeah, this cat. And he was doing his little pimp walk. And the first scene when he came out in the movie was the song Peachy Joe, and all you see is the shoe and the chain, and it's Zeus. Man, that knocked me out. I said, that's the coolest stuff I have ever seen. Every move he made was a poetry and motion. It was like bang, hit, boom, bang, and you knew the audience went crazy, And he was saying, that was one song. And this guy did a whole concert. He knocked him out. And then come find out that this is the guy, that actually got everybody knowing with your Zoot.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Helped start the Zoot. Zoot was the label. We talk about in the public side, against the war and Hispanics, blacks, everybody wanted to wear the Zoot, and he was the main cat that would do it. If you wore a Zoot, what you gonna do? First you gonna strut. Everybody wanna strut. And on the East Coast, but the East Coast we call them what? Drapes.
Oh, drapes.
The drapes. Cleats and drapes. West side, we just call them Zoots, But they, if you have one with a double pleat, you would be a captain. Oh, that's an amber. How many pleats you have? And that was it, They even made suits for ladies. But this man started a lot of stuff about it. And at that time in the 30s, he was electrifying personality, his energy. He was the Michael Jackson of that time. Everybody wanted, I'm gonna say Calloway, guys who take a girl on a date to say, I'm going to see Calloway. They'll go with you. And he was slick. He was, he was so cleaned out. He said, where are you going? Tell him about what's his hair here. Tell me about the hair. Come on. You gotta tell me.
One thing about Cam, they call him a band leader, but band leaders don't do what Cam did. He was a performer. If a band leader stand and they direct the band, but not Cam, He had to dance and sing, and he had that long, what do you call it?
Conch.
No,
That's a conch. Baton.
Yes, baton. And he would dance with it when he's directing, And one thing I liked about him is when he did a dance step or a flip or something, he flip his hair. Flip back right in place, every place, He worked with that hair, And this is hidey, ho. And his hair was going, his head was going, waving his head. And he was such a sweet person to work for. He was very soft-spoken. We went on a 3-week tour. Our first stop was Royal York Hotel in Toronto, Canada. We played there, and we ended the tour in Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. That's where they do all the honors in Kennedy Center. Yeah. That place is so big, oh my gosh. So many people, the stage was so big when we got on it. We were shocked at how big the stage was for just 2 couples, you know, because I only had one other couple with me dancing. But it was a great tour. We had a good time. One day, my other dance partner, he says, Mr. Calloway wants to see you after rehearsal. So he says, come to his room. I said, oh, okay, all right. So I said, oh my God, what have my dancers done? I didn't really know this couple, you know. I met them, and I told them what I wanted of them, and they said okay, and then we put a routine together, and we started rehearsing it and everything, you know. And the girl's name was Armanier. The guy's name I don't remember. I really don't remember him. He never stayed around much afterwards. Armanier, I see her through the years, you know. So I went to his room and knocked on the door. Who is it? I said, Sugar, come in. So he said, have a seat. He says, okay. So I'm getting all set for some lecture, you know, what they do, you know. And he says, I understand that you do a little sewing. I said, oh yeah. You know, because I was a dressmaker and I did men's tailoring and dressmaking. I started making my clothes at the age of 9. So I says, oh yeah, I made a lot of costumes through the years for all the Hawksmoor dances and things like that. So he said, come here. Went in the bedroom, he opened the closet door. He got all these white tails, you know what white tails are, right? And that's all he wore on stage. But he had a whole bunch of them hanging in the closet, and he took one of them down, and he took it off the hanger of the pants of the jacket, and said, look, inside is all these great big safety pins like this. So this was after he had lost a lot of weight. Because he was thin through the younger years, he was thin. And then he gained a lot of weight. And I think he took off, maybe stopped working for some time, but when he came back, then he lost that weight, and he was back thin again. He said, everything I work in is all pinned up. He said, a couple of times, something has come loose and stuck me in the side, nothing I can do with it. How you hold it out? He said, is there anything you can do for me? I said, listen, by the time you get back home to New York, everything will be fitting you just like you want. He said, are you serious? I said, I'm serious. He said, all right. So when we got home, he was very happy because every piece in that closet fit him like it should. He was very happy about that.
And so dance was one of the modes of expression, and fashion was another mode of expression for him. His presentation was very important. He says himself that he had over 20 different colored zoot suits in his wardrobe at one point. And he brags about having a green zoot suit, and then all the different colored tuxedos. He says he started that trend, and the only person that he said who was a rival to him in the fashion sense was Liberace. So he held the bar pretty high in the fashion sense, but that story about Sugar is incredible because the tails, you don't really hear about, that's part of the motion, that's part of the pose and the stances and the footwork and the fluidity up there and the motion, and that's part of the presentation. that he felt distinguished himself as a particular type of band leader, a performer, a vocalist, you know. And he said that he wasn't a musician, but the family says that his instrument is that he played the body. He played his body. He was up there, and that was his instrument, and that was his way to connect his audience to his band and his performance. And so I love that story. That's amazing. So I guess let's talk about Cab in film, because we said stormy weather. You said Betty Boop. He was in St. Louis Blues with Nat King Cole.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
He was in a soundie in the 30s called the Jitterbug Party.
Yes.
And that was technically Lena Horne's first film.
Yeah.
So Cab was,
Also, Whitey's Lindy Hop. They were in that too.
Yeah.
The Jitterbug Party.
Right.
Because he does a kickoff show channel with the Lindy Hops in the street.
yes,
Yeah.
remember that. And it finishes.
Chester, talk loud so we can hear you.
Okay.
I was saying that the Lindy Hoppers were in the movie Jitterbug Party. All right. After the meeting, me and you. To the moon, Alex.
And so Cab was in animation. He was animated by the Fleischer Studios.
And also, a lot of people don't know the animation scene was happening, but he was the experiment and the first one that created the machine called the rotoscope.
The rotoscope, that's correct.
Rotoscope.
Yep, it was a technique invented by Max Fleischer.
Right.
And they would trace frame by frame over the live film to give the animation that fluid, lifelike motion. And so you see it early in Betty Boop and in Popeye, because those were both Fleischer. And you can see, remember the one where Betty Boop was doing the hula dancing? That was drawn over frame by frame. So the Fleischers were very innovative, and Cab was their muse to create that energy and that fluidity of animation. And so his dancing, his movements have been captured in so many different mediums, different formats. And so it wasn't just in animation, it was in film, and he was originally a stage actor.
American Graffiti too.
That's right.
The animation people did it, Princess the Cat.
Yep.
They acted it.
Sometimes you have to show you. Have to be a mother. Anyway.
The people that did Princess the Cat, they had animation. They did Ralph Banshee,
Yep.
and he did an animated thing with the Nicholas Brothers and Cab Calloway. You have to look that up. But there's certain films that Calloway did. And this was in the 70s, also in the 70s. Again, dealing with movement, dancing. At the end of the 70s, going into the 80s, I met the Blues Brothers. I had a chance to work on the Blues Brothers. And at that time, it was a big $1 million budget film. They wrecked up how many? 372 cars in it.
Yeah.
Very expensive.
James Brown and Ray Charles,
Aretha Franklin.
Aretha Franklin. Everybody was in there. And everybody was danced everybody to death. And at the end, who's going to end this film? They brought Cab Calloway in with the Hollywood Palladium. He came in there and he did Minnie the Moocher. Another decade new dancers looking at him, discovering him again at that period of time. And everybody wanted, he did it, he came out in the white tails and knocked everybody out, even a record company in I think it was 81, he did Minnie the Moocher in a funk disco. A disco version of Minnie the Moocher.
And actually, John Landis wanted Cab to perform the original Minnie the Moocher, whereas Cab wanted to perform the disco version. Because that's his hit right then, right? So he's like, I want to perform my hit, and John Landis is like, no, we need the original Minnie the Moocher. And so the story goes is that he recorded that song on film and in recording at the Palladium, like almost, I think a dozen times. They recorded it multiple times over and over and over again because there was a lag between the hidey, 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 ho. So they had to keep filming it. So Cab was getting upset at the end of it. He's just like, all right, I'm gonna go out there and this is the time. And he just slayed it and it was done after that. And he just like storms off and he goes into his dressing room. I didn't get to play my disco version. I had to do this 10 times. Do we get it? All right, I'm gonna go sit down. But he was the person who was the father figure of Jake and Elwood. He's in the first scene when they come back to the orphanage, when Jake's getting out of the prison.
Yeah.
And so he starts out that movie and he ends that movie, but that, like Chester said, that introduced him to a whole new generation. It gave him like 20 more years of being able to, well, at least at 81, came out in 80, so he died in 94.
Yeah.
So, and between then was Janet Jackson.
Oh yeah, I got a chance by enough time, second time. That was good. Fourth time. The other one was in San Francisco. When me and him had to pick up the legendary Ernie Andrews. Ernie Andrews is a great blues singer, and all of us were on the show. And he got a little tipsy, and he said, "Help me out with him." I said, "What I gotta do?" He said, "Grab his body. Yeah, but we gotta get him." I'm holding him up, Calloway's going this way, and I'm going on it. I said, "How come I got the heavy man?" I'm like this, and we get in the elevator. I said, "Push the button." He said, "Okay." Boom, and all of a sudden in the background, just like I gotta go. "You can't leave me with this body, man." "Cab, what are you doing?" "I'll be back in the morning."
They were playing Cab's introduction.
I know, yeah. He heard it. He is not gonna miss his cue. He heard that music. I said, "Man, what would do with this body?" I'm dragging. I missed the whole hidey hole. He was on the third number by the time I got it. Oh, Blues of the Night.
Stories on tour.
Yeah, and the Nicholas brothers would laugh at.
Yep.
I said, "That's not funny." But it was funny.
Excuse me, did anyone see the show last night? Any of you see the show? How'd you like the guy doing Camp Calloway singing?
And you guys were incorporating all the dance steps that you said, the pimp strut that you had, and then flugy walk, or was that not it?
Fidgety feet,
Fidgety
flugy vamp walk, the vamp walk. Some of the dancers are in here. I see them over there. They do that. I said, "No, you gotta get it's from the bus loop, the dance called bus loop." And Cab would demonstrate that. And the girls had to put their arms back. You go across the floor like that, and you flop. And the weird thing is, in Cotton Club style of dancing, and all chorus girls sing, if I'm not mistaken, you have to learn how to perch. Have you heard that?
No.
What? Yeah. Perch, I mean, you guys know it's probably called that. So you have to walk across the floor, and you heels and stuff like that.
Demonstrate.
Who said that? Hi. Tomoko. Never mind, that's all right. Wait till we get home. You and you to the moon now. Perching, because you know I made you perch. Thank you. Perching.
Yes. Yes.
You got a perch,
Yeah.
orange arch. Perch. Fidgety feet. Bill Box and his partner, they like to do scratch the gravel. That's scratch the gravel. Then, the one he would do, well, in the jazz term, we called it Excalibur, X-turn, and this is where the models from ebony, and stuff when you walk down the runway, and you want to show them that you're all this stuff, they will always do a snatch and slow turn.
Yeah.
He would do stuff like that. And he could double it up. He could double spin. Cap would double spin, drop to his kneecaps, and just slide it with no hands. Which later on, another guy.
Show us.
Now. Are you giving, you're taking notes?
Yes.
Who are going to hit up? 1, 2, and 3, to the moon. His name was Larry Darnell. He came a little bit later, but he would watch Camp Calloway. And Cap would drop to his knees. All right, Larry Darnell would come around doing it. And then in the 60s, there was another guy. His name was Sam Cooke.
Yep.
Oh.
Yep.
Lonely Teardrops. He would dance and drop to his knees and come up and say, what are you doing? That's Cap Calloway. I just took that and put the rhythm of the soul music to it. And he would come on up. Everybody had treat, and the important thing about it, all of those dancers came out of the Apollo Theater. Cap was there, and everybody was watching, seeing what step was that. This step was here. So you can see where the influence was coming from all these different performers. You know, you have to be slick. You know, the women had their style and their flair and everything, but the guys had to be dynamic. You know, you have to be slick, dynamic, sing. So the Cap, like I said, he had it. He had the music. He had the dress. He had that flair. You know, and he could sing too.
And he had the storytelling in his songs and his lyrics.
Yes.
And he also, there's a history to today of creating songs for specific dances. So the song would be the name of the dance, and they would essentially manufacture a performance for the song. Yep.
And make a production.
Yep.
Full.
So like the Honey Dripper, or what are the songs that he were any of them that come to mind? Chicken.
Oh, chicken. Okay. They were songwriters, you know, and the unique thing about Cap, I call him, a lot of people say, well, most band leaders and directors we talked about, Duke Ellington and them, they're great. And Cap was also, I think he is a musician because he can take things, tell stories, make it come to life, tell the arrangement. He had witty songwriters. The guy named Emmett Babe Wallace. Babe Wallace was a great song, and he was in the movie Stormy Weather. He did numerous of Soundies motion pictures. And he said, man, I was with Cap, and he needed another witty number. I said, well, he got everything. You know, he hit the Viper's Bone and all these other groove stuff. He said, I got this song. And what's it about? Chicken. Okay, chicken. He said, good. And look at the side. I said, I wrote the song called Chicken Ain't Nothing But a Bird. And I said, how do you know? And he got it there, what's it? Yo, you did it, just boil it, cook it in a pan or a pot. Eat it with potatoes, mice and potatoes, and chicken is still you got. But it was a dish for all season. King Henry said, King Henry III, but Columbus was smart, said you can't fool me, because chicken ain't nothing but a bird. I said, Cap can sell that. Just give him the words. And he did, he got out there, another hit song by Calloway, Chicken Ain't Nothing But a Bird. You know, and he sung about things that was current at that time. He said, hey, something happened over there. He can't even come out. What's that, the reefer song? The Reefer Man. Yeah, the Reefer Man. He and this guy, whatever came out, bam. He was on top of it.
Yeah.
So he was always good.
Yeah, we call he's like a cultural reporter. Like he brings the news to you, and you learn about what's going on in the community, in the culture, in society, and he kept evolving his style in terms of the era he was in, because swing dance and swing bands, the era comes to a close at the late 40s, and everyone starts disbanding their bands and starts to go on either smaller bands, or they start going into theater, or they start doing different ways to reinterpret their music. And it was interesting to hear Cab's progression from a big band leader, at swing, hot swing, the energetic stuff, and then but he has a 5-octave range, and he was an operatic singer. He was taught by an opera singer, and the history of him as a vocalist is incredible as well. But he could project, and so that really made him a force on stage. And this is at a time, remember, when he first started performing, there was no microphones. So he was on stage with a megaphone.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so it's cheerleading today, but back then that was jazz vocals and performance. So he knew how to project, and it wasn't just his voice; it was his movement. It was he made it things larger than life. That's why the zoot suit kind of fit him, because he was exaggerated. He liked that energy of bigger than life and just trying to make things exciting and connecting. So I guess I want to ask, you said he was kind, you said he was nice, he was sweet. Was he ever strict? Was he ever like a disciplinarian?
No, he was only at the time with band. He wanted his music to be played there, play it the way it's going to be done.
He was strict about, you knew what time to be rehearsal. You knew what time to be ready to go on the stage, and the show ran smooth. It ran very smooth. We never had any problems, we never had any problems at all.
Him, Ellington, Basie, they believed in, what's that, the yo-yo effect? The yo-yo. Have you ever heard of the yo-yo effect? No?
Show us.
Boy, you guys. Thank you. If you guys hear a couple of accidents that happened tonight, don't look at me. They were last seen. All I heard was, show me. The yo-yo effect is when you talk to all your sidemen, all the musicians, and it spilled over into the dance era too. And you get a good job no matter how well you played, how well you danced. He said, hit time on the floor. We're gonna play. Show starts at 8. I didn't say 8:05, 8:02. I said 8. Okay? Same thing, so if that's that time, you will have to be there. Show up time is like 15, 30 minutes ahead. Hit time is curtains up, you're going. Now, that applies also if you've been working, because I worked on a lot of shows that I was telling, bus leaves at 5 in the morning. Leave at 5:01. You don't leave at none of that. Okay? You could be in Italy, France, and getting ready to leave because you got to catch the plane. You get up and say, oh no, I got to get down to the bus. 5:03, the bus is not there. You're gone. The bus driver and everybody's waiting, and you have a stopwatch to make sure everybody can get on. And either boom, doors closed and just drive off. So you boom. So you're like there, oh no, but I have a gig that night. You're in another country. You missed the plane. You missed the bus. But that night, you gotta be on stage. If you're not there, you lost your job. The next day, somebody else replaced it. So what do? He said, be there, or the yo-yo effect means you're on your own. You're on your own, meaning that you better pay out your own pocket to get the taxi, to get there, get another plane, and you're on your own.
And if you don't make that curtain call,
Yeah.
Oh man, oh man.
that's money you will not see. What else can you do with adults who mess with their money? You know? So if you mess with his time, he's gonna mess with your money. Whoever you're working for, any show you do, you got to be on time. And that is in us today. We are not late for anything. We raise Cain when they come strolling into a lesson, you know. And then they're late, and then they gotta stop and put their shoes on, change their shoes, you know. Hey, you paid for an hour, don't come in 45, 15 minutes late, or 5 minutes late. You done lost some of your money. You know, that's your money. When you pay for a class, get there on time. And then if your teacher's not there, you got something to kick about. Yeah, if your lesson is 12, and your teacher don't get there till 12:05, you're supposed to go, if it's an hour class, you're supposed to go for 1:05, not stop at 1, because your teacher was late. But don't you be late, okay? Remember that? Be on time all the time. It's important. And you mess with other people's time when you're late. But
Yeah, we on time, all the time, because we had enough money taken from us.
we learned the hard way.
He did that.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Oh,
He did
yeah.
that in the show, and you did the Legacy of Swing.
Legacy of Swing, yep.
Chris Calloway, and I was with him, with her on that gig, and we had to be there because we did 123 one-nighters. One-nighters meaning
That's hard.
over 4 months, and had double tuxedos, double suits, and it's timed down to the minute. And in case of emergency, you have to catch another bus. If the bus breaks down, it's that rule. It's that rule. And you have to go into it.
I've been keeping time, y'all, and I don't want to speak up. Let me say something first, and I'm going to hush and let them tell, okay? I'm looking around the room, and I'm looking at everybody that I can really see. For what I know at this venue is more people here than what I see in here. I'm only saying this because I learned, she learned, he learned, and he learned. whenever they have these talks, no matter what it is about, you get here. As long as I've been in show business, every talk, I learned something. And I be saying, well, yeah, that's true, that's true. So if anybody come up to me like a group of us be talking, and they can tell me, well, you know, such a, Sugar did such and such. I said, oh, no, she didn't. Because I heard of what she said she did such and such a thing. You got to learn this. You got to come out. You got to listen. It may not be what you want to hear, but listen anyway.
It's part of your history.
That's right, it's part of your history.
And that's why these talks are important, because we can document and preserve the legacies and the histories of the culture and understand the history and how we got here, to honor the past so that we move things forward with integrity. So I really appreciate your stories and hearing about Cab and learning more about his history and his place in culture. And it was just been delightful to meet you both and to talk with you and to learn more about my grandfather. So thank you.
All right, can we have a hand one more time for your lecturers? Sullivan, Whitmore, Langsam.
Y'all know who that is? What? Me and Sugar.
That's it.